All right. Thank you, everyone, for joining us this evening. This is and actually, I am going to initially share my screen because I have things to talk about. All right. So, welcome to the 2025 New Media Writing Prize Awards for 2024. Although the Unconference takes place in 2025, this is for the 2024 New Media Writing Prize year. Thank you and for coming and welcome. This is the culmination of a year of collecting entries and reviewing entries and reading and playing some amazing works from all around the world. And then 2 days of an unconference where we engage in workshops and collaborate on projects and write crossword poetry and do many, many other things. So we have had a wonderful 2 days of creativity and sharing, and we're all here now to gather and celebrate the new media writing that we've seen in the last year. That did not change the slide. There we go. So this is the 15th year of the New Media Writing Prize, which is very exciting. And you can see Jim having a good clap there. Jim, who launched the prize and shepherded it to the size that it is now. I inherit what is it? I was born on third base here as the director, to use an American sports euphemism. And so I didn't have to start this from the ground up. Jim did. So we're very grateful to Jim and to Chris Meade for all of the work that went into the New Media Writing Prize to grow it into what it is today. This year, we have yet again set a record for number of entries. We had 209 entries this year from 46 different countries around the world. We do have 5 prize categories, which is very exciting. We have 8 sponsors, 7 judges, and we've had 40 unconferencers for the past couple of days. So a lot has been going on, some amazing stuff, all kinds of great things are happening. This is our map of where everyone is from who has submitted works. And this year I've given you a link to this map so that you can see who submitted entries from where and what their entry was. You will only be able to access the shortlisted entries because those are what we post up on the website. But it's just brilliant to be able to see where these works are coming from and how far-reaching this prize has become, and how many people are eager to submit to it and follow it and have their work recognized around the world. So it shows how much this medium, this genre is growing, and hopefully we can continue to grow it even more. These are our lovely judges and organizers and sponsors. Our judges this year, they do so much work behind the scenes to review the works that have been submitted, to mark up comments, to talk about their experiences playing the work. So, and for just for the love of the form and the literature. So massive thanks to Jim Pope and Andy Campbell, who is also our web guru, Linda Clark, Lisa G, Mez Breeze, Bissy Anderson, and Brad Giori. So thank you so much to all of our judges who do so much for the prize, more than I do sometimes, I feel. So thank you so much. Our unconference non-committee was thought up and is organized in various fashions by me and by Dina Larson and Ken Alba, and along with volunteers. We had a lovely volunteer, Tomas Cajuera, sorry, this year, and our fantastic sponsors who continue to support us in many, many ways, from the British Library, who archives our winners and shortlists in their digital collections when the digital is up. The University of Birmingham, which supports us and sponsors our website. Bournemouth University, which is giving you the infrastructure that we are currently experiencing this on right now. If Book, this is Chris Meade's banner, and Chris Meade has always and continues to, even after his sad passing a couple of years ago, to sponsor the main prize, which is now called the Chris Meade Memorial Prize. Writing Magazine, which sponsors the Student Prize, FIPP Media, which sponsors the Journalism Prize, Dreaming Methods and One-to-One Development, which is Andy Campbell et al., who do the website and judge and do many, many things for us. And Wonderbox Digital, which is my alter ego, which sponsors the Opening Up Prize, the sort of People's Choice Voting Prize. And now we are to our keynote speaker, who I am told needs no introduction. So I will allow him to introduce himself as he gives our more of a keynote, less of a question keynote, in which I hope that none of you have gone to sleep or have wandered off to multitask, because I am informed that he is going to put some of the work of this keynote onto all of us. So please welcome my good friend, Joe Reddington, to talk about his experiences working with collaborative stuff. Joe?
Hello, everybody. I'm going to tell you two things I know to be true to start with. One of which is I'm aware some of you are waiting to find out if you're getting a prize, and thus you will hear nothing of what I say. I will, out of respect to you, be as brisk as possible. There will be no unnecessary waiting, I like to think, during this talk. The second thing I know to be true is that a good proxy for my mental health over the next 40 minutes or so is going to be the activity in the chat. Right? As silence reigns, I will just get slower and sadder, and it'll just be awful. It'll be tragic. So I am going to be chatting to you all. Excellent. Oh, that's Lyle. Oh, I'm not sure that counts. Never mind. Nevertheless, follow the example of your glorious leader. I'm going to do a sharing. We're going to do some technology here. I press this button, I understand. Look at that, technology works. So this is my overall headline. I am very aware that it is an unconference, and I love an unconference, and so we are trying to do this fairly interactively. Right, and there's a sensible reason. There's a sensible reason for this, which is that this is an unconference. It would be absurd for me to give 45 minutes of chalk and talk talking about things I believe. Right, that would be absurd in an unconference. It would be even more absurd to do that in an unconference that is focused on interactivity and collaboration. Like it doesn't. It would be extraordinarily tone deaf. So here's the rules we're going to have. I'm going to talk about myself for 7, 8, 9 minutes. This is, you may gather, the shortest I have spent talking about myself on any day for the last several weeks. Now, we'll then move to some Q&A. There will be some lead-in within the 7 or 8 minutes of things that you might find interesting or ask about. Feel free to go off on a wild tangent if you feel it would work for the group. It is occasionally difficult for people to come up with questions that they might ask. Some people don't necessarily jump on board. So what I have done is I have built you, and the URL will flash up in your chat momentarily. I've built a little PHP script which gives you some sample questions to ask. The sample questions you see will be different to the sample questions other people see. You'll be able to refresh them every minute if you don't like them. But broadly, what it says is, if you ask a question, no one will know if it's a real question that you are burning to know, or if you're just playing along and helping me out with some prepared questions. I don't even know the answers to all the ones in the system. So hopefully this helps you bring forward the level of chat. Now, it's very interactive. It's very choose your own adventure. Some of the questions you ask will unlock other questions later. So we have got paths we can go through this chat. Does that make sense so far? I'm hearing a huge silent yes. So, and indeed, we will go through them in the indeed the chat. So, link has gone into the chat. Lovely. Let me just open that so I can see things. Lovely. And people are saying, yes, how friendly you are, or possibly your bots. See where we go. So, we're going to talk about me. This is a photo of me when I started doing some of these projects. This is about 10 years ago. So you can see how much of everything in this talk has aged me. That is the key message here. But this was me 10 years ago. I had just started running a charity. I had been an academic. I had spun off some of the projects we're going to talk about into a charity. The charity successfully ran and funded itself for about 10 years, coming up on 11 years. It's currently in suspension as of a couple of months ago, largely because there isn't much money around, particularly in education. I will talk more about that if you are interested later on, depending on how you prompt me. Currently, I have gone briefly back into academia to do some teaching. So one of the reasons I was really glad to be doing this talk is because otherwise I would be marking, and I would rather not. All right. This is my background slide. I was a mathematician. I think I still am, like genetically, a mathematician, but this is a bit from my PhD thesis. I was a genuine nerd. I am still a genuine nerd. The type of work I often bring to projects comes from this background, but also I like to think a fairly creative background. But we're going to swap. I should have put like a content warning on this. It is heroic. But one of the things that's been particularly interesting is I've spent 10 years running a charity, generally being one of the more technical people in the room. And I've now returned to academia, and I'm definitely the least technical person in the room again. I'm now the person with social skills, which is not difficult in the cryptography. But the transition has been extremely interesting. All right, let's talk about some projects. In general, where I come in, I am normally the collaborative writing guy. So one of the big projects we've been running for since 2009 is Whitewater Writers. We go into schools, prisons, hospices once, various other situations. We take 10 people, some of them students, we take 10 people out of whatever they're doing for a full week, and they write a novel in about 5 days. We have produced almost, I think something like 297 novels this way, all of which you can buy on Amazon. In fact, I have some down here. At any given time, I can pull any of them out on a Zoom call. There's a little stack ready at any time. So we have got about 3,000 writers published this way. And in all of those, no one outside the group touched a key on the keyboard. They are coherent novels. They are a single storyline all the way through. There is no sense. Oh, and indeed, other people have them lying around as well. This is fun. I like that we're all anybody else feel free to wave a book at the screen just for fun. Oh, we had a question. There we go. Has it all been printed or any of them hypertext? So, in general, almost all, there was some exceptions coming up. In general, everything has been a printout because that's sort of what the audience wants. They want to hold in their hands a novel, like, because that's something you can show to family. Like, you can't, if you go up to your uncle and say, "Oh, I got a grade 2 in my GCSE English," the uncle does not know if that's the good one or the bad one, right? But you can hand them a book and say, "This is the book I wrote. This is real." That's the thing. There are some where they have been converted into plays, radio plays, comics. I don't think we had a couple of conversations about making choose your own adventure style. Choose your own adventure style comes up a lot in terms of the conversations. We've never had a pressing reason to do it. And in this case, pressing reason means a client wanting to pay. But the challenge is accepted. This it's amazing how often we are outside temporary cabins. But this is a fairly typical shot. We're in the local paper a lot. The local paper loves this sort of shot. I should be clear. I've done almost none of this on my own. Quite a lot of the whitewater rider stuff is I am helped. Helped is the wrong word. I am enabled by Dr. Skipper, Dr. Yvonne Skipper up at Glasgow, who finds funding, networks, talks to people responsibly, and keeps me quiet when I'm about to do something completely daft. I would absolutely. She's one of many, many people without whom these projects would not have functioned at all. I found this, I was looking for a different picture and I found this today and I was like, well, that can go into the slide. Oh, we have already a question. Has a writing camp ever failed? And the answer is nearly. Very nearly. We've normally got a couple of outs. So the way they tend to work, with the way they tend to work, the way we run them is on the first day you do the planning. There's a lot more to it than that, but on the first day there's the planning and the skeleton. Second day there's some detailed planning of what everything's going to be, and generally by that point you know how well you're doing. If in the, and then you'd normally have 2 days of writing and then 2 days of proofreading, copy editing, and so on as it gradually polishes up. For something to have failed, so by Wednesday you've normally got a complete first draft, and if the worst comes to worst, you could publish the draft. Send it out there. Right, fine. There's typos, there's always typos, fine. But the question is it ever gone so badly that we didn't get a first draft? And the answer is no. We've had a couple where, indeed, the first week I met Lyle, we've had a couple where we had like disastrous like illnesses or stuff where we lost 5 out of the 10 writers early on. Um, that was a stressful day. There's more on that later. Um, but no, we haven't. We'd have an incident this year actually where we weren't it was a comic about to come up. We weren't doing a full book, but had we been doing a full book, I would have abandoned. And that would have been the first ever time. Um, oh, we have another question. This is great. How do I recruit enthusiastic writers? Uh, Terribly, the answer is I don't. I recruit writers, and the enthusiasm comes later because. So here is a fundamental thing, right? Which is almost all of you, when I said they write a book in a week, thought I was lying. Fundamentally, that is what everybody does. Everybody thinks I'm lying, and they come up with a way in which it's a lie. So either, oh, everyone does a chapter each, because that's not, or there are certainly organizations that will sell a service where you say your plot ideas and then a real writer goes and writes them and brings back no, we bring them in and they don't believe. And we take them through some exercises, developing characters, developing arcs, coming up, and I yell at them a bit. And so they do it and like, yeah, yeah, but sooner or later the trick is gonna come. And then they put out the cards and then they develop things more and they start drafting and like, okay, but sooner or later the trick. And then there's this wonderful moment. It's not on Tuesday. Tuesday's always awful. It's always a grind. There's this wonderful moment on Wednesday when they start to believe and you feel the whole room changes because it's not just that they start to believe, which is the carrot, it's also they go, ah, he means it. We really are going to publish on Friday whatever is here. Whatever is here is going. And that's going to upload and that will be public. And so there's a level of anxiety that builds up. So the enthusiasm, one of the things that's fascinating is that when I'm training facilitators, the mechanics aren't particularly difficult. There is an algorithm. You get them to do this, you get them to do this, you get them to do this. The thing that's really hard to train people to do is to manage the level of energy in the room. You can't burn 10 people out early, but equally you can't leave anything in the tank. So you have to gradually, the way you're managing people and giving people tasks and moving people around and the energy you bring to a room has to be able to sustain for almost exactly a week until there's a big countdown on the screen and they're all trying violently to get typos out with 40 seconds left, and then the alarm goes off and they all just collapse. Managing that energy is rare. So we don't find enthusiastic writers because no one believes at the start. And the knock-on effects of this are things like I find it incredibly hard to find new clients what I get is I get emails from people who were at a previous school and moved to a new school and are bringing us to that. So my whole growth strategy just relied on teachers changing jobs. That was the whole thing. Da, 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 da. I wasn't expecting so many questions so early. I am going to answer two quick questions on this, and then we'll come back to some. How do we fund them? A variety of sources. It is amazing how often that source was Yvonne meeting someone on a train. It was we charge schools when we work with them. We charge prisons out of their budgets, which is then generally applied for. Uh, it is very important. I will give you this as a thing. If you're doing any writing activity with a school, the school must pay something. Because if the school pays nothing, they will cancel at the last minute. They will give you the wrong room. There will be no actual thing. A teacher that can book the room right and so on will have no problem finding £1,000 because that's not the constraint they're under. Always, always, always charge, right? Just because then it will work. Even if you're giving them free books out later, which is a thing. The 10 writers, it's a slightly arbitrary choice. In fact, can we come back to that one? Because I've got a really detailed, long answer that you'll like that tells us a lot about the system. But let me get through the other options just so we're here. Where am I? Right. So Project Real is a completely different project. And Project Real, we were given some money. I think Yvonne did indeed meet someone on a train, but we were given some money to teach young people how to spot and deal with fake content on social media. Now, fundamentally, the problem with this is if I tell a 14-year-old about social media, they do not believe me. In fact, if I tell anyone about social media, they broadly don't believe me. And if I tell a 14, like, there is no way that I can walk into a room and talk to a group of young people and be listened to on any topic. And that's fair because I wouldn't have listened to me either at the same age. This is not a possible thing. So we were brainstorming this and we were like, okay, how do we get them? What is the thing that will motivate them? And you're going, well, who would they believe on this? And well, they're constantly on the phones. Well, hang on a minute. Can we not get the phone people to do it? So one of the things that turns out to be true of influencers is they are surprisingly cheap. Like it's surprisingly cheap to hire an influencer to come and over Zoom, which is valid as a communication system, over Zoom talk to young people about problems in social media. And it turns out they are incredibly charismatic, right? So you get instead of this 42-year-old bald man talking to you about dangers of social media, a 19-year-old extremely charismatic influencer is talking to you, and the kids listened. The kids listened phenomenally. And out of that, we did a decent amount of co-design, produced some lesson plans, got the influencers to record various lessons, put it on a website, and we've had a lesson packs of genuinely thousands of downloads of people wanting this for their PSHE lessons. It was co-creation, but the key thing was about motivation and finding the people there. There's my next slide. There's my next slide. The next one is fun in terms of claiming the narrative. So this is a bit of a oddly curated selection here, but we had another thing in terms of narrative and getting people in control. And we're going to talk about the fig leaf that was involved here. So we were given some money to improve to increase the number of young people who are interested in cybersecurity as a career. And the problem with that is that people think cybersecurity is extremely boring, extremely nerdy, extremely antisocial. And the other problem is that is true. Like people are not confused about how terrible cybersecurity is as in terms of just being locked in a room clicking on things. Like it's not fun. So if I try and run a cybersecurity event, no one will come, or the people who will come are not the people I need to talk to. So the way we decided to do that in terms of a narrative exercise was we decided let's just not mention anything about security at all ever. So what we did was we started running courses on social change at A level. So we went into some A level situations, colleges, that's what they're called. We went into some colleges And in our what am I doing for time? Yes, fine. In our colleges, we recruited people who are interested in changing the world, which it turns out is a very, very different set of people than the people interested in cybersecurity. Because the cybersecurity people hate change. They would prefer it if we all just kept everything very, very still. We did a series of exercises. We started people, they picked an issue that they felt was important, or we gave them a card and they picked, oh, I've got this card that happens to be this one, and I will do psychopaths, or I will do raising awareness about this war. And we took them through a set of exercises over the course of 6 weeks, which are just security exercises. Because that's how, where is the information? What are the threats? What are your controls? What are your risks? What will you do in this situation? Da, 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 da. It turns out that it was about grabbing your narrative. Yes, sorry, I should have said for people who are 16, 17, and 18 years old. So that was tightrope. What was my next one? The Open Voice Factory. This is something I'm quite proud of, and it's not, the narrative access is interesting. So, my little brother can't talk, so we made an open source communication device. There's lots of communication devices, they all cost money. Ours is free. But that's not the interesting bit from the point of view of you guys. What's interesting from you guys is that, particularly for people who are pre-literate, by which I mean they can't just type what they want to say. If you can type what you want to say, that's a different situation. If you are pre-literate, not sure which is pre, but there we go. You have a set of utterances on your device you can say. That set of utterances is collaboratively generated. Richard knows what he wants to say. Richard's carers supply language. Richard's doctor might supply language. Various OTs and SLTs might supply language, and the synthesis of that is tricky. Particularly because you have to take the device off the user in order to enter it, and like the dialogue is tricky and it tends not to be done. It is a collaborative situation. It is not done collaboratively. So what we did was we had ours. So you build the page set collaboratively in PowerPoint, and then we process the PowerPoint to build a page set. Collaborative writing happens in all sorts of circumstances, and we don't look at it enough that way. This is the most recent work where we worked with various groups of people in Scotland, groups of young people in Scotland, about their experiences of cybersecurity and what their needs were and what their worries were. And we made a comic out of it. But nice to go because that's going to go out as lesson plans and so on. We had all of the classic problems of co-design, which is we co-designed it, and then the funders were like, no, this isn't what we wanted. And we're going, well, it's co-design. That's how you know it's co-design. If it was what you wanted, it wouldn't be co-design. This is the whole point. And so I'm currently having that negotiation right now. But it was a fascinating way of bringing up the storylines, the things that they think are important, the way that it allows us to scaffold conversations. Because one of the things that comes up when you're giving everyone a character, which is what we do in most of our creative work, is that you get to say, well, my character would be worried about this. And you don't really mean your character, right? And you get to have these conversations in a much more therapeutic way. So I'm flying through these. Right. Now I will have a look at the Q&A, which is exciting. The URL is up there, but it's also appeared a few times in the chat for courtesy of Lyle. It's really good that someone is just doing the chat things. I normally have to do a lot of command tabbing to make that work. The automatic question generation, I normally do in lectures. Started doing it in lectures this year because it's a lot easier to do, to just have them fire questions at me than to do slides in terms of engagement. This is my first time doing it online. So let me have a look. All right, so I wanted to talk about, we did funding, we did slide. All right. So we're going to do what influenced the desire to have 10 people. The original reason was it was a nice round number. Right, I wish I could say it was much more thought out than that, but it was a nice round number. It's also a very natural number for a team. There is a reason a soccer team has 10 outfield players. It is about the right number before people start splitting up into separate groups. In actual fact, the system works better with 8, maybe 7. if you can guarantee that everyone knows what they're doing. 10, broadly with 10, you will have 8 separate characters, and that can be a bit of a crowded narrative. 10 is the right number for young people to all feel like they're producing enough words and get enough of a book out. It's really, if everyone's typing for the 2 days that they're typing, I sort of need 10 people. And I don't need 10 people. In 10 people, I will have 3 people who aren't really paying attention, 4 people who are just sort of fine pulling their weight, and 3 people who are really pushing it. Right. And I can't lose too many people. Below 7, because we get illnesses and so on, but below 7, you really lose a level of team spirit. We have done 14, which was a terrible accident of booking, in that I thought I was doing 2 groups of 10, and the booking people thought I was doing 3 groups of 10. So we had 14, and the way we coped with that was a very constructive way, in that our approach is everyone has a character, right? If you have a character, first we work out on Monday what your character is and what they want and what they need, and from then on it's you. So whatever the character wears is your decision. What they like is your decision. How they interact, how they feel, how they process is your decision. How they act is your responsibility. The consistency is your responsibility. But equally, you only have to worry about your character. You don't have to worry about the whole length. Now, it's not just characters that you might be in charge of. Some people might be in charge of so often someone's in charge of space. They're in charge of the geography of the area. Or if there's a particular sport, let's say it's a book about soccer, they're in charge of all the soccer scenes, right? Now, what we've done before is when we had 14, I was like, fine, let's make 3 books. So let's have the narrative be the same, but you're in charge of all the soccer. You over there, you're in charge of all the athletics, and you're in charge of all the swimming. So what we did was I wrote a little script and we switched out the scenes. So the soccer, athletics, and swimming people all wrote identical versions of the thing for their exact sport, and then we switched them out. So we produced 3 separate books for that particular one. And you could get carried away with doing this. You could have 9, 10, 15. You could do all the sort of combinatorical things. But it was how we ended up putting the people down. Hope that makes sense. Let me look at what's left in the questions. What's special about working in prisons? So, they're lovely and calm. That's the first thing. Prisons are lovely and calm, particularly compared to secondary schools. There is a certain selection bias, so you get the writers who are engaging. They're still not. They still struggle with quite a lot of concepts, but you get the engaging writers. The fascinating things in terms of narrative is that none of their characters ever make a decision. So when the way, let us say, Western authors are trained to write is that at various points people make important decisions. They decide to be great. They decide to go through with a thing. They were worried and then they do the thing. What was really interesting is almost universally in the prison work we do, there is no free will. The person had to do this thing because their sister was in trouble. They had to go to this place because of this. There is no sense in the writing that anyone has a choice about anything ever. And that I find deeply fascinating to work with. To move on from that slightly dark thought, one of the things I discovered is that when I'm working with like a secondary school, I sort of stride around and I'm going, come on, type faster. You should be typing. Why aren't you working? No, what are you doing? Right. And there's a lot of yelling. There's a lot of motivational yelling. When there's everyone's got like, when I'm in a category B prison, I'm much more polite. I'm much more like, are you doing you don't fancy writing? That's okay. You don't have to write. That's fine. You do you. Um, And that was embarrassing to realize that the only reason I feel able to yell at the kids is because I'm just bigger than them. That was a moment of self-reflection and learning. But yes, the other thing that's particularly with some groups, you really notice like they do the quiet bit out loud. So the very first time I went to a prison, they wrote a story about hell, and there were various devils in hell, and one devil eventually by the end of the book became the head devil who was in charge of hell. One met a woman and decided not to be a devil anymore. One did very badly and ended up being like a low rank devil forever. And you are going through this plot with them, and you're like, okay, cool. This is just you're not. This is just there's not an al not an al. You just do it. This is just what you're doing. Okay, cool, cool. There is no cool. Let's move on, shall we? Let's not ask any difficult questions about this one. But very regularly when you're working, not just with prisoners, but also kids in care. We had a group of kids in care who wrote a book about monsters that were killing a lot of people, and the way you dealt with them was just by giving them love, and then they stopped being monsters. And you were just like, okay, I haven't got the training to talk deeply about this with you guys. Um, I've slightly answered one of the other questions there, which is where it's not that people say my character would do this. It's the character quite often it is just transparent. It is just transparent that this is blank. Sometimes it's particularly transparent. I remember we had a student who had I was running two groups. One student had recently been dumped by a student in the other group, and the poor girl was just writing her heart out on the page. Um, we had a at one point a particularly troubled student who really didn't want to be there. Uh, Her character attacked someone in the text, and then she went out and attacked someone, um, which was alarming. We had to do deep thinking about that. It was quite worrying. Where are we? There's some great questions here. Let's have a look. Is the absence of free will thing? Lyle, by the way, I am not in any way keeping track of the time, which is so I trust you that you will yell at me. Is the absence of free will thing equal across men's and women's prisons? Yes, it is. Um, yes, certainly. Where it became, where it's mildly you're a lot more restricted in a women's prison. Oh, I was a lot more restricted in a women's prison. Um, Women's prisons themselves are interesting for a whole load of reasons. Um, we weren't allowed to do any plots that involve any crime, and we weren't allowed to do any plots that involve any family issues. Now, that does limit you a lot in terms of like no relationships and no events that are like it's problematic. You're down to sport at that point. So we did Britain's Got Talent. Brighton's Got Talent is what we ended up doing. Uh, and everyone got very involved, but yeah, no, there was no sense in which that any characters were making a decision. Everyone was just there because that was the path they were on. That was a thing. So I love this question. To what extent is the process like a cross between writing and LARPing? There is no question that it's effectively D&D. But here is the differences, which is there are no dice because there's no randomization, and you have free control over causality. So you are time independent. So if you imagine you were running a D&D campaign, but at any point the players could go back and change past events, uh, you would be on board. But also the rule you as DM, you don't make rulings. The characters decide what will be best for that, what their characters' actions would be in service of a larger narrative. I think you can only have both of those things. I think if you do not allow your character to change their past, then you will end up in snarls where my character would do this, and just everything goes terribly wrong in the way that anyone who's done any LARPing knows. Um, So because of the temporal nature, you can do away with a lot of the rules. Now, in general, we've normally got an adjudicator in the room, which is me or one of my staff, who can do a very fast thing. We do allow bad plots sometimes. We allow bad decisions because that's what co-design is. Uh, but it has never come particularly unstuck before. And we also, there are, the groups have ways of dealing with bad decisions. The answer is, actually, the proper answer is, they are very, very close. I really want to find myself a D&D academic who can write a paper going, yeah, this is really similar. That's where we were. Like, I feel like there's probably a conference I should be going to. Like, like there's people who know this sort of thing. No, but I mean like more nerdy than you guys. Like uh duh, 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 no free willing. How do participants decide on the actions? Um, there is not a vote and it's not pre-planned. Each character is completely in control of their destiny. So if there is that is broadly the secret sauce, which is there is never a decision to be made after the first day where you need to have like more than three people in the conversation. There is nothing where you have to stop everybody. If there is any point of conflict, whoever's running the camp goes, okay, whose character is in question here? Your character is in question. Right. What would you do? Cool. That is the end of it. It was your character, your decision, bang. You don't like it, you control your character. Fine, moving on. Sometimes we allow, if someone's doing space, to be like, hey, no, I need you to take longer on this journey. And then, oh, fine, right, or time. And sometimes it changes a little bit depending on like how late in the course it is. If it's at the end of the week and there's a plot hole, you might just leave the plot hole in. No, you don't want to do too much things. Ooh, Naviscope. I won't click the link now. Uh, in the collaborative novel processes project, you mentioned cards as part of the process. So, broadly, there are several things that happens, and I'm making a little bit of a gauge of how much detail to go into here. So we start with more or less nothing. They come up with they pitch ideas, Jaws in space, that sort of thing, for a bit. They vote on which ideas they like. They work out what sort of things will push that around. They develop those into characters. Everyone gets a character. Everyone's got a character. Lovely. Then they do a thing on the board where they do a sort of storyboard where they come up with like 20 beats of the story. And then I rub it all off. And they start again and they do 30 beats of the story. And I rub it all off. And then I get them to write down 10 or 15 things that happen to their character in the story, just their character. Then we convert those into cards. So there'll be 10 of you. You've all got a little pile of cards. Then I have you pair up and you put your cards into one. You combine your narrative. And then each narrative slowly gets in until you've got one very long set of cards covering the whole room. This is a great process, by the way, because it's very confusing. Everyone's going, but I thought, and that's where a lot of things are snarled. There's a, what are you? But I was okay. Oh, we don't need this scene. At this point, quite often like to just move cards around on people because part of the role at this point is to make sure everyone knows I'm not actually helping. I'm just yelling. They have ownership. So there's a lot of me just going, no, 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 let's move this. This will be fine, and walking that around. Each of those cards ends up being a chapter. Mm. Um, when we put it into the software, because all this is in paper on the first day, when we put it into the software, everything ends up being a chapter. In general, you might say for 14-year-olds, 15-year-olds, you would have about 40, 50 cards if you're doing it well. And that would reduce to being about 25 chapters. Over the course of the process, they'll go, oh, I don't actually need this chapter. Oh, I already did this. And it reduces down. University students, you start 120 cards down to about 80, occasionally 60. And these at university level, you get this squashed down in a bit more interesting moving around. But each of those is the beats. The rule is if your character is not in a card, you don't get an opinion. That's no opinions. That is the thing. I have not got time in a week-long writing camp for you to have an opinion about something your character is not in. You should be typing. Everyone should have headphones in. Ooh. My group was very gaze in space. Um, there is a lot of ins you can do a lot with sci-fi. 57, yeah, yeah, yeah. How am I doing for questions? Have I missed any questions? Did everyone
You've got one from Christine. Are there any plans to expand Project Real into other countries?
uh thought of in that it goes to quite a lot of countries already. It's quite a replicable thing, but broadly it's a website and you download the things. What I could do with, but that's sort of that's quite a knock of answer in that yes, anyone can download it even though they've got a completely different educational system. Um, Anyone who wants to retarget it would be really helpful. We don't have the expertise to target it to other countries, but the model is relatively like it's if you have a little bit of money, you hire some charismatic people who the children will listen to, and here are some resources to help you work through that. It is not a it's another. Quite often, the charismatic experts were just delivering slides I'd written, which I found very satisfying. Um, I should get more. I'm more just charismatic people to deliver all my talks. Like I could definitely do it with the undergrads. Uh, but I'm thinking aloud now. Thinking aloud. All right, where had we got up to? Also, I have no idea if that's been 5 minutes or an hour.
You've got about 15 minutes
Got
left.
about 15 minutes. Lovely. Any further questions people have? If you refresh your things, you will find there are new questions in our Choose Your Own Adventure keynote.
Is there a theme that ties your projects together?
Ooh, I will come back to. I mean, terribly fret, but broadly. So I didn't talk about some of the projects here. Realness is the thing to talk about, which is you are doing a thing that is genuinely real, right? Like you are writing a thing, it will go on Amazon. Huh. That is like even if you leave a typo, yes, no one will save you. That is, it's scary, but it's also like in so much education, we work so hard to insulate people from the consequences of their actions that could be quite good when their actions are mistakes, but we insulate them from the consequences of their successes as well. I've never said that way, but that's a really good way of putting it, Joe. I'm gonna watch my recording back. That was a bit, so realness is very important. This is why in Project Real, talking to real people who did know what they were talking about is important. In the Tightrope Project, engaging with an issue that is real to you and coming up with ways that you can make steps and protect yourself is real. Like there is a lot of insulation, and sometimes real is can this be bought or sold, or at least exchanged on the marketplace of ideas? Have I put out my thing that is important to me and said to people genuinely this is important to me? So I think realness is a thing I really want to do more in. Now we allow concealment. So with our novels you can deny things. Oh, I didn't write that bit. There was 10 of us, right? Like a certain level of concealment is acceptable. So how do you get teachers and other staff to believe the projects will work? They don't. What is terrifying is how often people will let you into the building with no faith that you will succeed. Um, it is quite a lot of people will just because they believe it's a trick. It's sort of like they're welcoming a magician in. Like they're like, oh, okay, this will probably be good for a newsletter. Like the time when we let the kids go to the BBC and they read news stories, except they didn't read news stories. They just pretended to. Like we're not calling cosplay. They think we're cosplaying and we don't. Is the telling. Oh, genre. Genre's fascinating. So they tend to write because of their age. is a thing. So in terms of just because we majority work with year nine students, they tend to be quite plot driven rather than character driven. There's a lot of stuff where they only work out how to do it thing. When we've worked with the same students again, you get much richer things the second time. That's fascinating. But you get sci-fi, you get romance, you get zombies, you get any combination of these. For what we got a lot of alternative universes for a while. Um they're quite prone to pop culture. We got a lot of John Wicky stuff for a while. That was a thing. We had a lot of portals. Portals were very big for a while. So there's a reflective genre of what they're watching and doing. But in general, the thing I would say about genre is sometimes you will be very early on. We used to give them like spec scripts of like here's a page, you're writing a thriller in this room, and we stopped doing that because it turns out we didn't need to. The um the main genre they write in is not the one you thought they were going to write in. Like they will give you, you'll be an hour in, and they'll have put up three like reasonable ideas of plot lines. And a couple of them you go like, oh, I can see where that will go. That would be really interesting if they executed it that way. That would be superb. And then they will go in a completely different direction. So I was in Scotland a little while ago. Oh man, it's years now. Those kids have probably got like jobs now. But I was in Scotland a little while ago, and they had a plot line which was it was set in a psychiatric hospital, and there were three people who believed they had superpowers, of which two of them did. And you could do some really interesting stuff with that, right? There's a doubt, there's a thing. Some poor guy's thinking, oh, two guys fly, the other guy's like, oh, go on, I can do that. And then what there's a you could do some really interesting things. And they did not. They in no way did they. They just completely. So yes, in terms of genre, the genre is not they just invent new genres because they're not as constrained. That's a thing that's worth pointing out. So, until I started doing this work, I did not think you could write a novel about sentient clouds. I didn't think that was particularly possible. I still don't think it's that possible, but they had a go. They had a really good go, and it came out, and there was a thing about like it's a response to global warming and pollution, and you could do it. There's a thing. Um, so genre defiance is quite big, partly because sometimes they don't follow the conventions because they don't know what the conventions are. This turns up in a few places, particularly with the weaker students. They don't know how to do character growth that isn't death. So, like, they'll reach the end of the story and not know what to do with their character, and so they'll suddenly die. Like, there is that sort of there is that sort of thing where you're going, okay, no, you can do this. It is your character, but also maybe they could learn. Like, there's a thing because the thing they make because the question you're all avoiding asking is, are these novels shit? No, they're not. They are vastly better than any 9-year-old nine, any 14-year-old could write on their own, or any university wrote, certainly better than they could write on their own in a week. They are absolutely the height of their powers, but you do run into a limit where like they have not the conventions do not work. And sometimes this is um them writing a romantic scene and just not understanding like romance or flirting or any of that. And you have to have the teacher to go and have a word because I'm not explaining any of that to them. But here's the thing that's important because they make something that is incredible by their eyes and by my eyes because they built it. But while they don't know genre conventions, something that I find wild is they do know writer conventions. They understand writer's block. They understand going, oh, I don't know what to write. I'm brooked. Which I don't find acceptable. But the idea that we as a society have taught them writer's block before we've taught them writing is absurd to me. It's absurd that we cannot just like that we have taught them to hold back their creativity for no reason. There is no reason on that, and as you can imagine, I do not accept writer's block as a concept. It's a horrific middle class disease, and we we do not accept it, and no one in one of our camps stays blocked for more than like 10 minutes. Where there is a we have a sequence of things they go through, and when everyone's writing around you, suddenly it comes out. So on the first day, they learn to plan and to narrate and to bridge a story and to work out, oh, this scene needs to do this and so. On the second day, they learn they can write more than they have ever imagined anyone could write in a day. Like it just pours out of them after a while. And there are moments when you look around and everyone is quietly typing and the word count is just flying up. And a member of staff will come in and go, oh, is it an exam? And you're like, oh no, these are just children working. Have never seen this before? No? Um, on the third day, on the Wednesday, they learn to be brutal. They learn to cut scenes and to go, oh, no one's drafted this because it just doesn't work. Let's get rid of it. Oh no, we do need to write this, and they do learn to that. And then on Thursday and Friday, they are invested. They believe it will work. They think they've done a miracle, and then they sit down and read it, and that is where the growth happens because then they discover that a lot of is awful. And they learn to rewrite and they learn to choose words and they learn to bring the rhythm in and they learn that even after you've proofread it once, there are still typos. How amazing. But all of that is things you can only teach them if they are invested. By Thursday afternoon, I can spend 10 minutes teaching them about copyright and trademarks and why you can't use this and you can use this, and they will listen to the intricacies of why and where you can use song lyrics they wouldn't have done before. Creativity is the engine underneath the understanding. That was a bit of a rant. There we go. I'm looking at questions and I've just got Lyle yelling, learn or die in the middle of a chat. And like, it's not far off my teaching style. I could get a t-shirt. That's
I was thinking character arcs.
right. Not just yelling it at them. Yes. So the question is, do they publish what they're writing? Yes. And that is a key part. So if you go on Amazon and you look up TM Cooks, you will see 300 novels. And they publish immediately. So what normally happens is you can't run a group. Normally you'd work normal working hours for the age group. So for adults, I do them 9 to 5. For university students, I do them 9 to 5-ish. Secondary school, 9 to 3:30. Primary school, you do 9 to 2, right? On the last day, you can't run them that far because they will just burn out. So we normally would stop at 1 p.m. or 2 p.m. on the thing. I'd give them 10 minutes to recover, and then we do the uploading to Amazon. And they say, you will all have feelings about Amazon, and that is okay, but it's the one we choose. And we will have them say, do you want matte paper or do you want beige paper? Do you want a gloss cover or a matte cover? Do you want? And we work through that, and then we click the button, we choose prices, and we click the thing, and they see it go off, and they're just like, what? 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 And it's a little bit like when you do, I think you have already in the Unconference, so I didn't put it in my stuff. So I do a lot of Wikipedia work. And I occasionally do talks for like U3A where we edit a Wikipedia article together. And the vision in a room when you click submit edit to old people, they're like, oh, we're editing Wikipedia. Are we going to get in trouble? But yes, everything is published. And that's part of the threat, which is no one else is going to read it until it goes out. There is no teacher that will save you. You are going to look at each other's work. If there is a spelling mistake in it, then your mum, your family, your crush, we're all going to see it. That is the issue. But novelists are people who finish books. How am I doing for questions? Have you just come up and said that teachers learn more in the week than the rest? This feels like I love this question, partly because it looks like I'm trolling. Like I'm just putting in really like self-aggrandizing questions in my question. This is no, I didn't put this on. Um, certainly the students have, and the teachers have definitely gone, I did not know this kid could do this. I did not know this kid could hold a pencil. Um, because so there's a thing. I'm just going to check if there's any other questions because I think we've still got like 2 minutes left. But this is a good like final thing to finish on, I think. So, some kids are different than other kids, right? Newsflash. And some kids are really loud and not very good at writing, and some kids are quiet and good at writing, and some are loud and good at writing, and some are quiet and not very good at writing. It's just there's a table here. Now, if they're loud people tend to get big characters, main characters, and quiet people tend to get side characters. Fine, so far so good. So if they're loud and good at writing, they've got a lot of scenes to write, they write a lot of scenes. If they're quiet and not very good at writing, they don't have many scenes to write, they don't write many scenes. Fine so far. The other two are interesting, which is if they are quiet but good at writing, they have not many scenes, but those scenes tend to expand, right? They tend to get bigger. So I'm writing a scene with you, and I turn around, and you've written most of it, and I do some edits, and we're back in. But you can end up being like this. The arcs get bigger. They can end up being a main character of an arc. Like there is an osmosis that happens. If they are loud, good communication skills, let's say, but from my perspective, they're just loud. If they are, if they're loud and not particularly strong writers, they've got lots and lots of scenes, but they're in scenes with other people. So other people are also writing the scenes, and there's a collaborative thing happening there. So they get shifted into this really interesting coordinatory role. So they're like, oh yes, no, I'm managing that. I'm managing. Can you do this? And that's fine because they have the social skills. And these are examples of how, because they're not in lockstep in a class. They are, they have a group thing to do which has lots of different elements, and because they are different levels of skill at different elements, they do things. So they're always working on the things that best on the task that best suits their particular skill set. So it's not just the investment that works. The thing that gets them into flow is that they are doing a thing that is hard for them, and they are acquiring jobs. So there'll be some of the students or writers will particularly want things in order, and they'll be making lists of what scenes and what happens there, and they'll look at Google Earth to be like, can he jump from this building to this building? And all of those things happen. It is about giving them a context in which they can show their inclinations and improve their skills. And I think that's probably the sensible way of doing it. Yes. I think I will stop there because I think I want to know what happens to the prizes. Thank you very much for your time. By all means, contact me on other things. I am not difficult to find on the internet. And let me know how you found it. If you have any abuse, send it to me. It's always good.
Waiting for you to say send it to Lyle.
It's Lyle can abuse me without any prompts or feeds on that one. It's not difficult. But yes, I'm going to stick around for the prizes if I can.
Brilliant, absolutely. Thank you so much, Joe. I always very much love hearing about your projects, and some of which I hadn't heard about before. So I really appreciate hearing. Sorry, I'm trying to unpin you from my
Oh,
screen.
I can do this.
I pinned you, but you're still pinned. You're very giant. Mm. I'm just going to replace spotlight. There we go. It's going to spotlight me now. Brilliant. So thank you so much to Joe. Fascinating project. And I do recommend getting in touch with Joe and talking about these projects because it's always a fun discussion and fun ideas, and you get to see some non-conventional approaches to education, which I think when we've been in education for a while, we kind of just get in that rut of we're going to do things this way. And in my experience, there are different, just different approaches and this is one that really involves play and collaboration and teamwork and creativity. And self-efficacy and ownership, and it was just a really cool experience for me when I did it as a facilitator for my group of students. And I'm always looking for an opportunity. I keep joining universities that are circling the drain, sadly, um, which is like all of them now. But I keep looking for opportunities to do it again because I think it's such a cool experience, much like the Unconference. So thank you very much for sharing with us. Um, I am going to return to sharing my screen. And I navigated away I navigated away from the presentation, which I do need. So let me share. All right. Okay. On to our prizes. Excellent. So we will start with the 2025 Student Prize nominees. A reminder that the Student Prize is sponsored by Writing Magazine / Writers Online. So Writing Magazine has kind of shifted to be Writers Online. So our Student Prize winners do a membership to Writers Online and the opportunity to engage in those sorts of activities and those useful outputs that Writing Magazine has always provided for us. Without much further ado, I do draw these things out, I know. The first nominee in this category is Life from Olivia Tonheim. And apologies if I get names wrong, feel free to yell at me in the chat. Life is a gaze-driven poem that rewards quiet observation, short, sharp, and visually grounded in the everyday of Bergen, where Olivia was working and living and writing this work. Next nominee, You Have Created a Monster from Cecil Wilde. This is a tiny but mighty, poetic, philosophical gut punch about love, selfhood, and survival, which is kind of haunting in a very nice way. Apologies, Olive. That is, I have clearly uh, mistaken that. So it is Olive Tonheim. I will try to correct that in the future. The next item on the short list is World Cuisine from Yaroslava. World Cuisine is cute and accessible, a playful entry that invites you to learn about food and culture with simplicity and charm. Repercussions is the next item on our list from Jesse Van Balkum. Repercussions is powerful and thoughtfully designed. This is a safe, sensitive space, exploring how words really matter when a friend is in need. Revisiting from Aiden Strong. Apologies if you did not hear my dog having a hissy fit there in the background. I just had to pause so that my brain could continue to work. Revisiting from Aiden Strong is the next item on our list. And I have lost my notes. Apologies. There we go. This is a dreamy, charismatic tale with nostalgic tangle layered in visual textures and youthful learning. Another nominee in this category is One Lonely World from Vigard Fotland, which is a post-human poetry piece where a lonely dog struggle becomes a quiet allegory for queer survival. So we do have a judge's honorable mention in this category, which is essentially a runner-up or, as I say, an honorable mention. And that honorable mention does go to Repercussions from Jesse Van Balkum. And the judges note that this work had admirable themes and note that it nicely suits the call of the New Media Writing Prize to innovate with digital media, creating an engaging, satisfying narrative, and doing what other traditional media can't do in order to reach wider audiences. So well done, Jesse, on that work. Congratulations. And the winner of the student prize in the New Media Writing Prize 2024 is, drumroll, You Have Created a Monster from Cecil Wilde. This is a surprisingly impactful philosophical work, the judges note, darkly playful, with strong writing and interesting ideas. A superb example of how less can be more. So congratulations to Cecil. Is Cecil here? Cecil or Cecil? Happy to not here, but congratulations again. Winners do receive laurels along with their prize. They do receive laurels and a certificate from me, which will come to you in the week or so following this event. Not immediately because I'm just one person. So congratulations again, Cecil, on winning the student prize, the Writing Magazine Award for Best Student Work. On to the 2025 Opening Up Prize. This prize is one that is not judged. This is, well, except by people voting for it. So we take essentially a long list of the entries that come into us, as long as we feel that they should go out to the public. We sort of curate this initial long list of works, and we make it available. We make it available to the public to vote on, to review all of the works, to decide which one most speaks to them, and submit it. So this is completely open to the public. This is public voting, and it is sponsored by Wonderbox Digital. So the idea here is sort of one of the quintessential elements of the New Media Writing Prize, which is to open new media writing up to wider audiences. So the nominees in this category include Breaking the Nets from Shamshir Yousaf, Monica Yah, and Sriram Vitalamurthy. And apologies again if I'm getting names wrong. This is an epic multimedia triumph, richly reported and deeply moving. This is about a group of fisherwomen, and their stories shine with strength and fierce collective hope. In this category also is Jim Andrews with Sea of Poe, a multilingual, multisensory, and fully interactive bit of wild digital poetry. This is a magazine, and so it is a collaborative project full of code poetry and interactive poetics. An Island of Sound by J.R. Carpenter, who is no stranger to the New Media Writing Prize, with a soundscape by Jules Rawlinson. And this is in keeping with much of JR's work, windswept and wondrous, poetic, a decolonial drift through sound and image, which pulls you gently into its spectral, shifting world. That is An Island of Sound. Interactive Dreams, and they're a dream about parking lots, which I think that now I'm going to be dreaming about parking lots as I go to bed this evening. Surreal and quietly emotional. You find your car, you unpack your trauma, you talk to your therapist. Weird in some very good ways is a dream about parking lots. And Olive's Life, apologies, Olive, we will get this fixed. Olive Tonham, Life is a nominee in this category as well. Congratulations, Olive. How Do Underage Girls Learn About Marital Relationships from Isra Saleh is another nominee in this category. This is a hard but necessary read, deeply researched and bravely told, and it confronts child marriage with clarity and compassion. So a difficult read, but a good one. Cecil is also nominated here in the opening up category with You Have Created a Monster. Congratulations again, Cecil. Continentalists, Gaza lives, resisting, I could have that wrong. It could be Gaza lives, resisting cultural genocide. So I think we could kind of go either way with that, in that we're exploring the culture itself, but also the human lives that are affected by the Palestinian conflict. So this is painfully powerful, elegant, data-rich, a tribute to Palestinian culture under siege. So a real, again, a difficult read again, but a worthwhile one. Crimson Eyes, the walking play, is also nominated in the opening up prize. This is from Alan Hall, a powerful street level story of homelessness told through walking and listening, blunt, real, and sometimes darkly funny. I scammed so I could live. Inside the story of South Asians trafficked and enslaved in Asia's booming scam compounds, from Rukshana Rizvi. This is a walk through survival in a scammer's shoes. So we don't often think about the people on the other side of the text messaging or the chat bots or the spam emails. This is gripping innovative journalism that makes the system's cruelty very, very real. I scam so I could live. All right, our honorable mention in this category, opening up. So this is the people's vote on these works, goes to Crimson Eyes, the walking play from Alan Hall. So congratulations to Alan on the honorable mention here. And the winner of the opening up category for the 2025 New Media Writing Prize, well, the 2024 New Media Writing Prize, is Gaza Lives, Resisting Cultural Genocide. So this is a very worthwhile topic, and it gathered quite a number of votes. So I think it really resonated quite powerfully with audiences. Do we have anyone from Continentalist here who created this work? Doesn't look like it, but congratulations to the authors from Continentalist on your winning entry into the opening up prize in new media writing. You will be in touch with Wonderbox Digital for your prize. Congratulations. All right, so this one, oh, and I see Alan has posted in the chat. Very pleased to receive the honorable mention. Thank you to everyone in the awards, and well done to Gaza Lives. So congratulations both to you, Alan, and to Continentalist. The Interactive Digital Narrative for Social Good Prize is quite close to my heart. This is entirely sponsored by you, the people who are here, the people who came to the Unconference, who presented, who participated, who created new works, who collaborated. Everything that you contribute to the Unconference goes directly to this category, and it makes this category possible. This category was sort of the brainchild of work that I've done in interactive digital narrative, working toward things like climate change education and health education. And I know that there are a lot of people working in this area and doing amazing things with new media writing to make the world around them a better place. And so I'm beyond thrilled to be able to not only to offer this category of the prize, but also to know that about the wonderful people who are contributing to it that I get to spend 2 days with every year in the run-up to this awards evening. So the 2025 IDN for Social Good Prize nominees are Seeing from Margot Machado, which is a sensual, sound-rich work that asks us to look differently beyond the male gaze that is so often the default in media work and into how we choose to see. My Brother the Parasite, and I'm going to say this is Crow's Cant. Apologies if I'm mispronouncing that. We do, authors present their display names to us, and we go with that. Whatever your display name is, we're happy to use that, unless I've done a typo. And so My Brother the Parasite is this dark, disturbing, beautifully layered, the phrase grief with teeth comes up, told through striking art and sharp narrative choices. So a very darkly felt work, this one. Agentia from Richard A. Walker. Again, no prize to the new media, no stranger, sorry, to the new media writing scene, from Richard A. Walker. This is a dreamy, meditative drift through a more than human perception, gorgeous, strange sort of scape, and quietly hypnotic, bit of eco poetry. Jesse Van Balcom is represented here in this category as well, with Repercussions. Again, this sensitive space and thinking about assisting friends in need and how words can be helpful there. Abu's Last Two Lines is also nominated in this category. This is poetry as protest, powered by community. It turns collective voices into moving, meaningful verse, a simple idea with quite strong impact. Redacted Whispers from Audrey Dayoung-Oh. This is a soft, fractured tale of fear and alienation. Minimalist, but it bears a lot of weight with language shifts and echoing choices and lingering meaning from those choices. And this is a Twine piece. Twine has been a very popular topic throughout the Unconference, and as we discuss, opening up new media writing to as many people as possible, Twine is a very useful tool on that front. Excellent. So, Life from Olive Tonheim is also nominated in this category. Well done. This one seems to hit all of the markers that we need across all categories. 80,000 Steps from Crystal Chan. This is a deeply moving and cleverly embodied work where you walk a mile in a refugee's shoes. So we've had scammers, we've had different elements of different sort of walking a mile in someone else's shoes. And I think that's something that interactive media and narrative can really do well. So there's an excellent use of a soundscape here, which presents a very heartfelt, deeply moving story. Happenings, a tragico-lyrical philosophical essay from Monique Chauffin. This is genre-defying and boldly feminist. It's an experimental mashup probing how women's bodies are written, shown, violated, and remembered. So the judge's honorable mention in this category goes to Redacted Whispers from Audrey Dayoung-Oh. Again, this is the judges note that this is a powerful narrative about otherness with evocative, introspective writing. So big congratulations for this honorable mention from Audrey Dayoung-Oh for Redacted Whispers in the Interactive Digital Narrative for Social Good category. And the winner of the Interactive Digital Narrative for Social Good category of the 2024 New Media Writing Prize is Last Two Lines from Abu. Do we have Abu here? Feel free to unmute and pop in.
Hi, thank you so much. Yes, I'm here.
Yes, absolutely. Do you want to say a little bit?
Yeah, thank you all, everyone, especially the board. By the way, this was a very old idea. It started out of a very desperate situation and turned out to be doing some really good work, overall. And it was much needed, this recognition. Really, really appreciate. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Congratulations. And I don't want to forget the judge's note so that you have that, which is that this is a powerful, community-driven, poetic narrative that tackles the idea of interactivity in a wonderfully different way. So congratulations to you and last two lines for winning the New Media Writing Prize Award for Interactive Fiction for Social Good. Well done. Okay, we're getting closer, everyone. We are now on to the Journalism Prize nominees. We've seen a few of these previously in the Opening Up Award. So Breaking the Nets is one of our shortlisters from Shamshir Yousaf, Monica Jha, and Sriram Vatala. I do get better at names as I go, sort of. So Breaking the Nets, again, about fisherwomen's stories, a very moving piece. Gaza Lives, Resisting Cultural Genocide from Continentalist. How do underage girls learn about marital relationships from Isra Saleh? I scammed so I could live, inside the story of South Asians trafficked and enslaved in Asia's booming scam compounds from Rukshana Rizwi. The non-voter time bomb from Divergente, I believe, which is a sharp, urgent, and visually rich piece that makes the democratic crisis of voter disengagement both personal and global. This is definitely a concerning issue for our time, which is very much brought home by this piece. So we have two honorable mentions in this category, and the journalism judges apologize, but they could not be here this evening to offer their direct congratulations. So they have given some statements about these works that they have asked me to read for you. So the first honorable mention is Gaza Lives, Resisting Cultural Genocide from Continentalist. Congratulations. The judges note this is an excellently researched, creatively presented educational story that documents the history of Gaza and its destruction. It confronts and critiques the Israeli occupation of Gaza by pointing out the ways in which Palestinian citizens and their culture have been under siege since the initial invasion in 2023. The project tells the story of Gaza through an impressive array of storytelling modes and interactivity options, using a breadth of sources, personal stories, public data, documentary evidence, links, and clickable graphics that all reveal information about this embattled part of the world and the suffering of its people. Dynamic infographics, photo montages, illustrations, scrolling vertical and horizontal text, and narrative portraits of individual Palestinians bring readers closer to the conflict, putting human faces on the troubling statistics of mass deaths, destroyed property, and disrupted civic institutions. So congratulations to Gaza Lives on honorable mention in the Journalism Prize. The next honorable mention is the non-voter time bomb from Divergente, or Divergent, however it may be pronounced in this particular case. The judges note this impactful piece of data journalism is methodological, ambitious, and aesthetically inventive. Its data-driven study asks some important and timely questions, such as do people vote less where inequality is higher? And do lower salaries mean lower voter turnout? With interactive maps and graphs, it offers a deep dive into this complex topic, arriving at nuanced conclusions, while emphasizing the need for voters to engage with the democratic process. The insights it shares are powerful and its conclusions sobering. Abstention is a ticking time bomb that threatens all societies hoping to remain democratic and free. Congratulations to Divergente and the non-voter time bomb for the second honorable mention in this category, the Journalism Prize. And the winner of the 2024 Journalism Prize in this year of 2025 New Media Writing Prize is Breaking the Nets from Shamsher Yousaf, Monica Jha, and Sriram Vitalamurthy. Are any of the creators here this evening? That's perfectly all right. Hopefully they will get the full effect of their winning announcement on the YouTube recording. The judges note this powerful piece of interactive storytelling sheds light on systemic oppression through the lived experience of Indian women. It is an empowering narrative about breaking the shackles of oppression and patriarchy through solidarity and collective action. The emotive effect of the narrative is heightened through meaningful use of multimodal elements, full screen imagery, moving image, voice, and writing, and a seamless navigation. An immersive user experience with fluid navigation covering an important and underreported topic that has been carefully researched. This highly ambitious project addresses large-scale social implications linked to tales of personal struggle. Covering stories from 6 regions of India, the scope is vast and the depth of research impressive. The sound files allow us to hear the women telling their stories in their own words and introduce elements of ambient sound. These interactive components invite audiences to explore the narratives in a highly emotive manner. Multimedia elements such as striking photographs, graphics, and moving footage also enhance the stories. All these components bring us closer to fisherwomen at the heart of this moving suite of journalistic features. So congratulations to Shamsher Yousaf, Monica Jha, and Sriram Vitalamurthy for winning the FIPP Media Prize for Interactive Journalism in the 2024 New Media Writing Prize. Well done, everyone. Finally, on to the 2025 Chris Meade Memorial Main Prize nominees. And again, we express our ongoing and deeply felt gratitude to Chris Meade, who has not only supported the prize while he was alive every year, but also has made sure to continue to support the prize after his passing in 2023. Chris Meade has done so much for this area, and we are delighted to be able to call this prize the Chris Meade Memorial Prize in honor of his contributions. So the nominees for the 2025 Chris Meade Memorial Main Prize. Life from Olive Tonham. And I feel you've been in so many categories, Olive, and I feel quite bad for having the typo repeated so many times. But this is Olive Tonham with Life. You have created a monster from Cecil Wilde. World Cuisine from Yaroslava. An Island of Sound from J.R. Carpenter with a soundscape by Jules Rawlinson. Seeing from Margot Machado. My Brother the Parasite from Crowscunt. Agentia from Richard A. Walker. Last Two Lines from Abu. Redacted Whispers from Audrey Dayung-O. 80,000 Steps from Crystal Chan. Happenings, a tragico-lyrical philosophical essay from Monique Chofin. And I will note, it is quite a field this year. We had a wonderful wealth of works to choose from this year. And so there were a number that we wanted to highlight on the short list. Repercussions from Jesse Van Balkum. Revisiting from Aidan Strong. One Lonely World from Vigard Fotland. Latex, Leather, Lipstick, Love, Lust from Stanwix Buster. And since this is the first time this work has appeared in our nominees list, I'll note that this is a raw, funny, and fearless journey through trans identity and digital intimacy. This work is wildly emotive and quite smartly built. Blood from Exit 73 Games. This is a cartoon, a game, a cookbook, and a vampire slaying teen. Blood is chaotic, clever, and full of heart. Defenestration from Super Biased Gary, a display name that I quite enjoy, Super Biased Gary. Defenestration is a poetic scroll through grief and confusion where the rhythm of text, sound, and space hit hard in quite good and emotive ways. I'm never going to pronounce the Irish in this correctly, so please forgive me, Mucky T. Decked Out and Drochthadal, which is, I've pronounced that phonetically, and I know Irish is not phonetic at all, so apologies. A short story in various parts from Mucky T. This work is an eerie, Irish-laced cosmic horror with game vibes and serious narrative chops, in which choice and agency never felt quite so uncertain. Love, Guts, and Meekanots from, I'm going to say Vermis or Vermi, not quite sure. This is a piece involving cyber love, queer pain, and punchy dialogue. It's got serious style, and there's some real emotional depth under quite a bit of digital grime in this piece. Clock Tick from JC. This is a personal, reflective, interactive story on time and growing up. It's intimate and gentle, like a memory you forgot you had. The judges' honorable mention in this category, and again, I want to stress how much we feel like there has been such good quality this year, and that we've had such a range of interesting entries and very emotive pieces and narratives. So everyone deserves congratulations, but we're going to call on our specific honorable mentions and winners. Our honorable mention goes to Last Two Lines from Abu. The judges note that Last Two Lines has a simple yet effective interface to both read the lines as individual contributions or as a single cohesive work. So congratulations again to Abu for this very effective piece. Quite clearly, it was very well liked, and so it's very well deserving of the honorable mention in the Chris Meade Memorial Prize of the New Media Writing Prize. Finally, what we've all been waiting for, the grand prize winner of the Chris Meade Memorial Main Prize for the 2024 New Media Writing Prize is, big drum roll, I can't do a drum roll noise. And of course, do I ever download the sound effect? No, of course I don't. I couldn't possibly. So I just rattle on as a drum roll and to heighten the tension. But before everyone explodes, the winner of the New Media Writing Prize for 2024 is Latex, Leather, Lipstick, Love, Lust from Stanwix Buster. The judges note that this piece has fantastic writing that manages to make an unfamiliar structure feel, a subculture, sorry, feel relatable. It has an engaging narrative, visuals, audio, selective use repetition. It's just brilliant. Very interesting and an emotive piece of writing, and the story is very strong. I see Gary has noted that Stan couldn't be here, and I did get an email from Stan that they couldn't be here. So congratulations on this work. All of these works are going to be linked from the New Media Writing Prize website. So please do go and click on our archive and explore them. Congratulate the winners. We will be in contact over the next week to make sure that you get your prizes and certificates and laurels and some more congratulations. Congratulations to everyone for such amazing work this year. We're always delighted every year to see what comes in and see what wins. And again, thank you to all of our sponsors. We couldn't do this without you, absolutely not. And it all makes the New Media Writer Prize happen, the Unconference happen, various bits and bobs happen, and encouraging all of these works. So thank you to the British Library, the University of Birmingham, Bournemouth University, If Book and Chris Meade, Dreaming Methods and One-to-One Development Trust, FIPP Media, Writing Magazine / Writers Online, and Wonderbox Digital. And anyone who wants to sponsor us can always contact us and decide to sponsor us some more. So thank you very much, everyone, for coming. I'm going to stop sharing. This will be available on our YouTube channel, and I will absolutely link to it from the New Media Writing Prize website. And thank you again to our judges who devoted such wonderful amounts of time and care to selecting the shortlists and honorable mentions and winners. And thank you most of all to our entrants who create such wonderful art and submit it to us and let us peruse it and talk about it and post about it and share it. And finally, thank you to the unconferencers who make the social good category possible and who give me a delightful 2 days every year of creative work, performances, inspiring discussions, and just general fun and silliness. So thank you to everyone. So for the unconferencers, look for documentation and follow-ups. I will try to share the collaborative projects that we've been working on with the whole group so that we can continue those, as well as resources and links that were posted in the chat. The recordings, I will make those available to everyone. You get to check them before I make them public. And everything will be archived on our website. So thank you all very much. Go out, make new media, and send it to us. Thank you all for coming. Thank you all for contributing.
Thanks, Lyle.
Absolutely.